This conference will now be recorded.
Fine. Do your hands up, like once if you can hear me, that would be enough. So, yep, thank you. Thanks, Bala. Thanks, Koti. Thanks, everyone. Yeah. So, myself, Sayakil, I have a overall experience of 9 years into IT. Okay. Whereas the 7 years as a data engineer and other 2 years, starting 2 years as a SQL developer. So, in the term of all my engineers experience, I have been finishing like completed like around 12 projects as a Azure data engineer. Okay, so like I got good hands-on experience and I got good experience with the Power BI. So like I just want to share all my I'll like to put all my experience before you in our learning parts so that we'll all travel in the same path. So before I get into the introduction and before I start the actual sessions or the demo, so I just want a basic introduction from all of you. Can who wants to start first?
Yeah, hi. This is Amit Kumar.
Yeah, hi Amit.
Yeah, actually, I don't. I'm working on the AWS project actually. So I thought to just shift my career into the Azure data engineering. So for that reason, I have selected this course.
Okay. So what in
Yeah,
AWS are
previously,
you working, Amit?
yeah, it's as an infrastructure. You can say AWS
Okay.
infrastructure support.
IaaS side, right? IaaS. Uh,
Yes, yes.
okay, okay. Thanks. That's good, Amit. So whoever wants to start next? Yeah, Bala, please.
Yeah, I'm a I'm Sashidhar and I am working as a senior manager and I have total 14 years of experience and in that coming to Hadoop part, I'm having 7 years of experience. Totally, I'm having on-premise experience. So future is totally cloud, right? So
Yeah,
that's
okay.
why I just want to learn Azure data engineering.
You want to shift your career to cloud, right?
Yeah,
Fine.
yes.
That's good, Bala. Thank you. Thanks for the intro. So anyone wants to give their intro? Go fine. We can discuss or later. So before getting into the actual session, how many of you already have idea about Azure or kind of any cloud service? Like I know about Amit and Bala they introduced, but anyone of you are having already know about Azure and its services, right? They can raise their hands if anyone of them know. Okay. Hmm. I see answers as no. Like before I go into the actual session, I want to make this demo or this session more interactive. I would like to have a two-way communication because that way we can solve our answers and questions. That would be helpful for getting a better idea also. Okay, fine. So I just want to enter into the actual session. So today, as part of the discussion, what all we will discuss, first let me share my screen. What all we gonna discuss is a basic intro to cloud computing. What is cloud computing? What are its benefits over other on-prem, and what is cloud computing has its benefits on other on-prem services, right? And next, different cloud computing platforms. Why Azure is best among them, right? And next, we spoke about will have a get a intro to data engineering. Okay, what are all required to become a data engineer. Fine. And next, who is data engineering with Azure, right? Then career or this with Azure, what all we get with this session at the last. Fine. I'll start with the basic intro to the cloud computing. So what is cloud computing, right? So what is cloud computing? Why we want to discuss about this cloud computing? In general terms, what is a cloud? We see which is like in a distant, like which is very distant to us, like. So why we are talking about cloud computing today is why it has generally came into in picture all of a sudden. Till now, like everyone, like we said, Bala is talking about on-premise. Bala is Bala is kind of talking about on-premise. But what is on-premise? What is cloud, right? On-premise and cloud are both are two different environments, right? What happens with on-prem? You have everything visible to you. Premise is visible. Okay. What in the case visible is a kind of a storage. Okay. Uh, Virtual machines. So these are some basic examples of on-premise. On-premise are which are available on your premises, which you can see, which you can touch, and which you can kind of when you want to increase its storage, when you want to decrease. So it when that is called on-premise, right? So first example, why to get a better understanding of this on-premise, we'll talk about storage. Okay, storage. For example, in recent past, like in recent from past 10 years, there are many software companies coming in, right? So many software companies are kind of building up on a daily basis. So what happens? Every company will have its own data. Every company will generate so much of data. So what this data? In order to store this data, they make use of what some infrastructures like uh, storage disks, hard drives, like that. So if they want to store their data, they want to make use of any storage disks or hard drive. So for example, imagine there is a large company like Cognizant. Okay, so what they'll do, they'll get vast data on a daily basis. So initially what they'll do, they will purchase a hard drive of capacity 1 TB. So 1 TB data for example, they were finishing or uploading 1 TB of data in 10 days, right? For them, for a company like Cognizant, what happens? It is for difficult for them to kind of purchase this kind of hard disks on a very regular intervals. What happens? They will go into a downtime. Okay, their services will be down if they want to purchase storage. They should give some downtime to the customers. So in order to avoid that, what happens? They are looking. All these companies are looking for a alternate opportunity, alternate option called scalability. So why the scalability or elasticity? Why we are talking about this scalability or elasticity is whenever they want to upload a data, whenever they want to migrate their services, whenever they want to put their data in kind of some space, for them they should not get any issues like storage. Like for example, storage issues should not occur in their path. So this may cause what business loss for them, business loss from the business loss from client, because the service would be down for some time. What In order to solve this problem, in order to solve this scalability issue, what scalability is? Increase of space automatically. This happens with the cloud. So what happens when you put or when you store your data in the cloud? What happens? it will automatically increase whatever you want. Like for example, 1 TB data is finished and client wants more data to insert. This automatically happens. You don't need to purchase service. You don't need to kind of get any more extra space. What happens, this will be automatically uploaded to this existing storage in the cloud. But what basic example of cloud I can talk about, if I want to make a clear about the cloud, is imagine on premise as imagine on premise you storing money in your wallet. Okay, like if you kind of have like around 15,000, 15K, you are carrying it in wallet. Okay, so what is cloud? Putting that money in bank. So here the bank is what? A service. Bank is providing you service to store your money, right? So in on premise you will feel the cash, you will put the money, you'll feel the physical, like you can touch, you can feel, you can spend whenever you want. But in putting in your bank account or service, you will only use it through phone pay or some Google GPay services, right? So these are kind of, if you want to use that money, this is physical, which is we are putting on prem, or this money in your wallet. If you want to store that money in bank, that is what? Cloud. Putting money somewhere else and making use of that money is cloud. Got it? So likewise we have different uh, this money services, right? Like phone pay, Google Pay, or some other, like some other Paytm. So in general, in cloud, we have these different cloud service providers, right? AWS, sorry, Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud Platforms. Got it? Till here, you got any doubts? Anyone? Sorry, Uh, they can raise their hands and ask. I take the answer as no. Is that fine? Amit, I hope you can relate it with AWS, right?
Yeah, it's fine for me. Yeah.
Yeah. So I see. I take the answer as no. Like no one's responding. So till here, what happens? I'll give a recap of till here, till what we discussed. So a general cloud computing is different from the on-premise because of the its features and its benefits, like scalability, okay, cost efficient, and it is always up and we can utilize whenever we want. Right? This is the from basic benefits of cloud over on premises, right? So we discussed now about cloud computing. We had a good example relating it to the bank, right? So why we want to choose cloud? Because of this scalability, cost efficient, and these things. But out of all these services, and there are three different cloud platforms we discussed, right? Azure, AWS, and GPay. But still there are in general, or in the other I mean real life scenario, these three, again, these cloud services are not only these three, like it is a kind of on a higher level categorized into private cloud, public cloud, and hybrid cloud. Okay, So till now we discussed about cloud computing. I was talking about Azure, AWS, and Google. Why all of a sudden from where we got this private, public, and hybrid cloud, right? Why we are discussing all of a sudden about these three things is private. Just a minute. Yeah. So what we classified the cloud services into these three. Like what all services will come under private cloud is our Azure. Azure is by Microsoft, right? AWS is by Amazon, and GCP is by Google. So these are three big giants currently offering the different private cloud services. I'll talk about what private and public and hybrid later, but make a note of all these three services. What are public is in general for a single company, right? Sorry. So, yeah. So what is public cloud? It is independent of the service or the company. So for example, if a company called Cognizant wants to save data within themselves, right? What they'll do, they'll create a data center for Cognizant itself, for a Cognizant itself. So what happens, only Cognizant can make use of their data centers or their data spaces. So what happens, this is what public cloud, only they can make use of. What is hybrid cloud? Which a company which uses both private and public cloud. So this company can make use of their own data center, their own storage services, and also they can make use of Azure or Amazon or anything like that. So what happens with this, why we are generally this categorizations happens is based on the company requirement, based on the services they are having, because many companies already may kind of have purchased a lot of storage. So in order to avoid that, in order to make utilization of that, they'll kind of go for the hybrid cloud structure. Got it? So first today what we discussed about what is cloud computing, how it is different from on-premise. Okay, what are different cloud services, and what are how are cloud services categorized, right? Any doubts still here, guys? I want to make it interactive, so I just want questions or answers from you. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, yes, okay.
Got any doubts still here?
No, all good.
Yeah, fine. Okay, I hope this is fine. So till now we got a good understanding cloud computing, what Azure does, and why we want to choose over Azure. Why we want to choose Azure over AWS and GCP is because of its cost efficiency and the data centers it provides. I'll talk about data centers. It might be new terminology for someone, so for some people. So I'll talk about this data centers in deep later. But just remember these things. So what data centers it provide? So because of the services and the cost efficiency, we choose Azure over AWS and GCP. It's like it's more beneficial for every company, for any company to work on their cost cuttings, right? So what they for them, Azure is the best option. Okay, so now we had a basic discussion of cloud computing, the offers it, the structures or the cloud offers it do, the different cloud structures, the example that defining the exact cloud. So we had a good understanding here. So what now we got into Azure and everything. So but why all of a sudden everything, every company is kind of worried about their data, because every data is fine, because data is what important for every company. So if a company wants to increase its sales, if the company wants to kind of rectify its previous mistakes, right, for every company what happens, data is important. For example, let's talk about a company called what, Maruti. Maruti Suzuki. So what it does is, this company sell cars, okay. In For every year, what they do, they want to make a analyzation, they want to make an analysis of how they are selling cars, which particular model of their cars is getting more sales, which particular company is kind of getting less sales. So what this does do, what this help them in order to improve their sales, they have to get a analysis of their data, they have to get a idea of what they are selling. So what they do, they collect all those data for every year, right. They collect all those data every year, they filter out the data as per sales and models, and see which model or which branch is making more sales. In order to make this analyzation, in order to make this analysis of which model or which branch of their Maruti Suzuki company is selling doing more sales, what they want to do, first they want to collect this data, okay. So for everything, like in order to improve their sales, like what this collection of data does is, at last it will, the final step, what it improves their sales, it makes them rectify their mistakes. So in that way, data is more important, right. So what is data first? What is data? Collection of information, okay. Please make a notes if you want to. Collection of information which helps in analyzing or improving the efficiency of a particular product or anything is data, right. So what does the data do? It's a collection of information from all the aspects, from all the parts of even it might be sales, it might be medical, it might be anything. So what they do, they'll collect every information that is present. They'll if they which is helpful for them to increase their efficiency or sales is called is data, right. So now it's fine, like so we have known about data. So we are worried, why we want to, so there is data is coming, company is making everything, like they are filtering out sales data from there, they're kind of doing visualizations or doing models, right. So they're doing whatever they want, okay. But why it is more important for them, like why? So for a giant, okay, giant like Maruti, what happens? Is it difficult to the, it is easy, is it easy to do you think is it easy to do this on a manual process? Can can this be done by a single person or is a single group of team manually? They can if they have kind of 1,000 branches, can they kind of employ 1,000 employees to look after each branch? No, right. What they'll do, they will store this data into a database, okay. Just what they'll do, they'll store each branch data to a database. Like what they'll do, they'll kind of, for Madhapur branch, they'll maintain one database one, base one. For other branch, they'll do database two. Like what happens, single database will have the particular this particular Madhapur database will have information of their sales and model of a car, okay. Sales, the model of the car, and people interested in buying, people information, we can say people information, right. So this all information will be stored in each single database. Like this, like if they have 1,100 branches, like in Malapur, in Amirpet, in SR Nagar, what they'll do, they'll maintain each database for the each region. Like, so once they maintain all this data, all this information in each single databases, what they'll do, so now it is easy. Now it is easy because as they are collecting where collecting each data in database, like what happens, everything will be captured in the database. So in order to make this database, so only collecting is not enough, right? So they have just the data. Okay, they want to make useful, they want to make use of the data to fetch out the sales. Okay, to fetch out the sales per model, like which model is selling more, which model is kind of selling less. Okay, which which branch of this particular company is selling more data, they want to emit, they want to extract this information. So what they do, they'll perform some operations on this data using different tools in Azure, like for tools in Azure or any other service. Okay, so this is what happens for a data engineer. So for example, some of you want to become a good data engineer, right? So what, before you want to become a data engineer, what all you need to require, because for every service, for every engineer, for every technician, or for every developer, there is a prerequisite, right? There is a prerequisite which he already has to know, or which he already we can give a good idea on that. So what one particular thing is data. Data in terms, in general terms, in technical terms, we call this SQL database, or any database is a prerequisite if you want to become a data engineer. And next step is he wants to move this data from on premises to cloud. So what he required some uh, resource or a destination. So like this is database is one prerequisite for a person who wants to become a data engineer. And other thing is what, this all required for a, these all required technologies or tools for a person to become a data engineer. And three is Azure Data Factory. Four is Azure Databricks, right? Five is Azure Synapse Analytics. Okay, and Azure Storage or data like Gen 2 is more or less same. Okay, I'll talk about when we are discussing about storage accounts, but today we'll have a basic idea of what service is what. Okay, Azure Synapse Analytics, and then Power BI. Got it? What is that? Power BI. So what all sessions or what all things we're gonna cover to become to complete this data engineering training is what we'll do. We'll kind of cover the basic or basic introduction or basic things or something. What we do is we cover this with the starting with Azure SQL database or SQL database. Once this is done, we'll jump into Azure storages, and then we'll go into technical tools like Azure Data Factory of then as a Databricks, next to Synapse Analytics, and introduction to Power BI. Like how many of you already heard about these services earlier? Any of these services like Power BI might be like storage account, like anything. I know if
Yes,
it
sir.
is, if you are new to Azure, it is fine. But if you have already heard about any of the services, you can let me know. Sorry, someone was talking.
Yeah, storage account and the Azure services.
Okay. Azure storage, you are already heard about, or you already worked on that.
Yes, we working on it.
Okay. You already worked on them storage account, right?
Right.
Yep. Okay. Anyone? Anyone? Okay. Ramakrishna says he knows about SQL DB. Fine. Good, Ramakrishna. So anyone already have a basic understanding of SQL DB or any database? It might be SQL, MySQL, any Cosmos DB like that, Oracle. Anyone? So this I was asking this question because it makes me understand, because it makes me understand at what level or what level I should start or taking lessons or classes. So
So
I get
Sai,
answer from everyone. Yeah.
is it required like basic level of SQL, or expert level of SQL required for
No,
this?
even if you have at least kind of a training level of SQL, like if you have trained on SQL, if you know like what are the different components like store procs functions, like procedures that are available in SQL, that is fine. As a like for experience level of 1 to 2 years, it is fine. You got my point, Raghuram?
Yes, Sai.
Yeah, so basic level of understanding to SQL or some training level of SQL is enough. So whoever all had that level of understanding with the SQL or any database, you can even reply on the chat, not an issue.
Data storage, SQL and MySQL, we heard it because as a part of the Azure, the where the data is stored in the sequence level, that I have a idea.
Okay. So you have idea or you have hands-on, Jay?
Hands-on.
Hands-on with those services. Right. That's good. So like I mean, when I am kind of talking or taking lessons, or when we are taking starting actual sessions, I'll start with the SQL DB and storage account, because everyone wants to have a good understanding what is database and what is the usefulness of database. So I'll start with the prerequisite. I'll not completely give good training on SQL, but I will take that SQL lessons or SQL classes whenever it is required in the part of lessons. Like I can say parallelly, I can talk about SQL and storage accounts. But all these other services, right? All these remaining services, we'll talk in deep about them. Fine.
I have a query,
So
one query here.
yeah, yeah,
Like data, like Azure service, like Azure engineering and Azure developer. What is the difference? Because the service which I have seen, like the parts subjects which
yeah.
I'm seeing here, it including the Power BI also.
Yes,
So
yes. I
Power
talk about
BI
that.
and yeah, Power
Yeah.
BI and Azure Snap Analytic. Is it a sign up analytic or
Synapse.
Synapse Analytic?
I'll
Okay.
talk about. Yeah. So like when we spoke about, like I'm getting into that actual question. So when we
Okay.
spoke about this, when we started introduction about this class today, so we asked Amit, like or someone like Amit, I think, like Amit said he had idea on what infrastructure. So why he's talking about infrastructure, that too in cloud, right? Because a basic cloud service is classified into three different platforms: IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. This will answer your
Yes.
question, Jay. But this is a basic
Yeah.
to answer that question. I have to start from here. Okay, IaaS,
Okay.
PaaS, and
SAS.
SaaS. Okay, what is IaaS? Basic is infrastructure
Infrastructure.
as a service. As a service, right? PaaS is platform
Platform.
as a
Service.
service. Okay, SaaS is
Okay.
software as a service. So what are infrastructure as a service? Why are these services classified? Because in general the examples of infrastructure will cover like virtual machines. Okay, you know idea about virtual machines, Jay?
Yeah.
Yeah, virtual machine, for the people who have kind of who are new to virtual machines, I'll talk about. So for example, you are working for a client from Cognizant. Okay, client with the Cognizant. Okay, so you are sitting in India, the client is in US. Okay, client wants to if there are some folders or there are some files that are there in the client system, so what he will do, client will create a virtual machine which is a parallel machine to his system and give access to that system only, which will consist of the files like D drive, E drive, C drive, like that. So what happens with that? Whatever the files in the client machine are available, that you can see in your system by logging into this virtual machine. Got it? So virtual machine is other machine or a copy of the system of a client or some other machine which will only have the essentials or required files like that. So this kind of virtual machines are security groups like every like sorry, yeah, VNets, like all these services. VNet is kind of a virtual network security. Sorry, yeah, virtual network. So what is with this virtual network is, so for every system kind of if you want, I have some created some services like in data factory in my laptop. Okay, so in order to kind of other person to access that, we need to kind of allow that person, right? So that kind of things, that kind of VNet gatherings will happen with this VNet. Okay, these are some examples of yes. So the main focus would be on the PaaS because it is a platform as service. The all tools which we discussed here, Azure Storage or Data Lake Gen 2, Data Factory, Databricks, Synapse or Power BI will come under platform as a service. So infrastructure is, for example, it is a kind of a place. Okay, infrastructure is like, for example, you are constructing a building. Okay, so in order to construct a building, what all you need, like bricks, cement, the stones or concrete, everything, the different items, right? These all will call as infrastructure. Okay, once you have built this, what happens? You need this all will kind of create a foundation. That foundation
Okay,
is called,
noted.
sorry,
I need to add one more. Let me check. Okay.
sorry, who is talking? Did someone ask any questions? No, right? Fine. Yeah. So all these virtual machines, like kind of this virtual machines VNet will kind of create a platform, like as the concrete or stones or bricks, creating a foundation, like making a foundation for a building. This all will act as a foundation for a service to create a platform as a service. So in general, in construction terminology, we call it a foundation, but in our terminology, we call it platform to create platform which is already created. Platform is already created, but we make use of it. So for example, if you want to use a Flipkart or Amazon application, if you want to order a product, you won't kind of create complete application, right? You won't kind of create a complete app or complete application right from the scratch. What you will do, you'll just download the application and log in and make use of the application. You just order the products. So that already created application is called platform. Okay, you are making use of things in that application is platform as a service. Likewise, there are already services created like ADF. ADF is, sorry, Azure Data Factory is already a created thing. Azure Data Factory, Databricks, and likewise, likewise Azure SQL database. Likewise, there are different examples we can take care of. And what is SaaS? SaaS is what? Software as a service. For example, Jay or Amit or anyone who are working in a company called Infosys or Cognizant, right? What they will have? They will have a mail ID, mail ID to transform or to exchange the communication. Like for Amit or someone, for example, myself, Sai Akil @cognizant then .com, right? This would be my mail ID. So in general, what we'll get some, this cycle is common for everyone, like they'll just replace their name or their IDs in place of this. But this particular cognizant.com, this particular cognizant.com or infosys.com is what we called is a domain. So this type of domains will be provided by the software as a service. What we say, we'll kind of purchase these licenses from Azure. So what they'll do, they'll give us separate domains like cognizant.com or infosys.com. So what are some examples of SaaS are if you heard about Outlook, okay, and Teams, Word, any kind of such application, getting access or getting this outside Office 365, Office Office 365. All these services are called software as a service. You will just buy licenses from this. So they'll just provide access to this service. They'll create a domain like cognizant.com, infosys.com, like that. Then you are ready to go and use these services, and like your mail services, you can use that. So now I'm coming back to the question asked by Jay. So what did she ask? She said, what is the basic difference, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Jay. Okay. Differences of Azure developer, okay, Azure data engineer, right? You asked this question, right, Jay?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is the question. If I'm not wrong, right?
Actually, the Azure developer and the Azure data engineering difference.
Ah, that's what I wrote here. I mean, you guys can see my screen.
Yes.
Yeah, here, this is the question you asked, right? Differences of Azure developer and Azure data engineer.
Right.
Yeah. So what does Azure developer? So basically, before entering into the Azure, what does the basic difference of a developer and data engineer is? Developer, the name itself says he develops apps, okay, apps or services. So what he develops, he basically makes use of technologies, right? Technologies or not technologies, what we say, makes use of coding languages is like C sharp, .NET, Java, like this. What he'll do, for example, there is a Flipkart application, right? So for a Flipkart application to run, to make it available to the users, make it available to the customers, someone has to build it, right? Someone has to write a code behind that. Someone has to write a code behind the product. I mean, the add to cart, add to, adding delivery address. For everything, there is a software behind. Software behind what we call is backend, right? Backend technology. So what this developer do is, what this Azure developer do is, he makes use of Azure services like Azure App Service. Okay, Azure App Service. What you'll do within Azure App Service, he will code with C Sharp or .NET or Java, like this. He'll make use of these coding languages and develop a application or website. So his website or application he developed, like he created with the coding. But to make this available, to make this application or website available for the customers, for the end users, he want to put this code somewhere, right? In order to the place of putting that code in Azure is called Azure App Service. This answers your question, Jay, or you got any doubts here?
Hmm?
Sorry, you,
Yeah,
this
got it.
answers your question. Yeah. So
Yeah, got
then
it.
what is data engineer now? So everything
The
is done.
the person
Yeah.
who manage the data from
Yeah,
the
so this developer has
infrastructure.
created the application like Flipkart. Okay, so he has created the application like Flipkart. That is not enough. That is enough for the customers to log in and order their products, right? So once this Flipkart has available and is available to the customers, everyone. So what happens when this application is created? Every user, like there are 100 customers who will download this Flipkart application and log into that application and order their products. Okay, all these 100 customers data, like 100 customers, like what you'll do when you download application, first step is you will log in. What happens with that? Your login, the login is you give some username and password, right? This username and password is a data. data for Flipkart. It will store it in the backend. So whenever you open this application, you don't need to log in next time. Like you will only log in first time, because the Flipkart in the backend will save his data as a database. Save this data for Flipkart in database, right? So this is one part of data it captures. Okay, like customer information or login information is one data. Next, you will Flipkart will Flipkart will have stock of all products. For example, I want to go order shoes. Okay, there are 10 pairs of shoes. Shoes is only available, right? So what will do? Flipkart will have a record of these 10 customers, 10 pairs of shoes, right? So once after what happens, this 10 pairs of order is done, it shows what? Out of stock, right? Am I clear? So it shows out of stock. In order to maintain this inventory, like which product or which order or which particular product is having how much amount of stock, how many people can add, people can kind of order. So what they'll do, they'll kind of maintain a stock of each product. That is also part of what? Data. That is also stored as where? Data in a database. Okay, so all this like customer information, the product information. Okay, and once order is placed, you will get a order ID of your product. Order ID of your product, right? So again, what will happen? This order ID of product will also create a order ID for customer. This also has to be order ID also has to be stored as data in database base, right? So all these different types of data we are storing in database. So what has to do? What is the role of a data engineer? What he does is he gathers all this data. He will get into all this data and fetch useful information from this data, right? For example, uh, yeah. For example, we are hosting a birthday party, right? We're hosting a birthday party or some party, like thousands of people has attended. Thousand of people, like we can say 100 people have attended to the party. So what does this do? You only have food for 50 people. So like connecting of this information, like how would you know? You will get to see the quantity. Based on that, you will kind of order some more food or like that, right? So 100 people have come to your party, but the food is only available for 50 people, which is what? 50 people food available for 50 people is also a data. 100 people, the information of 100 people, like what they are eating, what they would like to eat, like all this 100 people data information is also info is also a data, right? Food availability, the menu of food is data. Okay, quantity of food is also data. So this data you have, but you want to make use of this data, like with the available data, with the available quantity of the food, with the available menu of the food, you want to make use of this. How much of this food is available to how many people? Okay, to utilize this data, to understand this data, to make this data understandable or useful, what he will what this data engineer will come to picture, right? So what he will do, he'll sit on the top of this data, he'll make analysis, he'll migrate. If you want if you want to order more food, if you want to kind of change the menu, if you want order which food item is less light, if which food item is more, which food item is enough for other people, which food item we need to order more. This kind of extracting this data, or this kind of making useful useful fetching useful information from the data will be done by done by what? Data engineer, right? This answers your question, Jay.
Mm, hi,
Yes, yes, sir.
Akash side. Actually, I have a question over here. Like
Okay,
you are saying, the data engineer
one
will
second.
fetch all the data, required data. Am I
Okay,
audible?
Akash,
Yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah,
yeah, Akash. So it is saying that here the data engineer will fetch all the data.
yeah,
Okay. So after fetching the data, what he will do? He will analyze like who is ordering what kind of data, what kind of food, or what the menu of the food.
yep.
What
Hmm.
exactly he will do with this data?
So that's what. In earlier we discussed about. Yeah, Akash, right? Maruti Suzuki. You heard
Yeah.
this example? I was this Maruti Suzuki. They will maintain maintain separate data for what? Sales. Okay, customer information. Got it? Sales, customer information, model of the car which is having more sales. Okay, which
Okay.
is having more sales. So what they will do? They'll go to the sales data. Okay, annually they'll see like which model of car. Like for example, Franks is having more sales this year, more sales for year 2024. What they will do? They want to make the francs more efficient, the francs more available to the people. So what they will do, based on the information that they have fetched from the 2024, what they will do? They will do more production, more manufacturing of what? Francs model, like that. So they'll get into the, they'll take the example, or they'll gather the information from the previous data. Based on that, what they'll do, they'll kind of manufacture it more, or they'll kind of put to attract more. For example, for France is having more customers. Okay, Baleno is having less customers. Okay, what they'll do, based on the information they gathered, they will put sales or offers on what? Baleno. So in order to put sales or offers, or in order to make production, what they do, they want to gather the previous year information, or previous year data. So that is what makes them a kind of a point of sale. Like if you want, so for example, you are buying a M size t-shirt, Akash. Okay, so that M size t-shirt is not enough for you. So what are you doing? M size is 40. Let's take of this example, L size is 42. Okay, so you only know that L size will fit you because M size is not fitting you. Because if you buying M size, I mean this size differs, right? In different brands, the size is different. Like for example, uh, Lee Cooper gives M as 38 and L as 40. So in regular habit, what you'll do, just choose M size and you'll just order that. After ordering, you'll try to fit in that, but that you feel it bit tight. So M here act as a point that M is not fitting you, L will fit you, because you bought the M, because of that you only know L will be the correct size for the Lee Cooper brand. Just like what happens, if you have collected this previous information, previous year's data, and you have made a good analysis on that only, which brand is selling more, you can kind of improve the sales of that other model, or you can kind of make production of that francs more available, like that. You understood this? Hope this answers your question.
Yeah, means he will analyze the data. Then after
Yeah.
analyzing, he will come out what all the things he can do for the futures to increase the
Yes, what,
sales.
like for example, to improve the sales of Baleno, because of it is having less customer, he will analyze the data, why it is having a less customer, which part of area, like Madhapur people are buying less Baleno. Okay, so what he'll do, he'll try to attract more Madhapur customers to buy Baleno. What he'll do, he'll give some separate offers to the Madhapur people, right? So like that. So in order to improve sales, in order to improve anything, like I'm giving a generic example like this. So in order to improve for a in a sales perspective, or in a kind of even in if we talk about COVID also, the some people like for example, we are talking about 100 people, okay, out of which 50 people took one vaccine one, and 50 other people took vaccine two, okay. What they'll do, they'll kind of analyze, like they'll kind of keep an eye on all these 100 people. What they'll do, they'll see like which person or which particular COVID patient is recovering more on a more speed, okay. So based on that information, they'll give one vaccine one to the more customers, right? So all
Right.
this process of doing is called analyzation. Understood? You got any questions here, Akash?
No, thank you for this.
Yeah, you understood it fine, right? So data is efficient, data is important. In order to, for every sales, or in order in the health domain, or in the sales domain, or in the banking domain, everywhere the sales of the capturing of data is more important and efficient. Got it? So in order to capture, in order to store this data, we are using databases as discussed. Azure SQL database is stored to some type of data. Azure storages is kind of some storage space for storing data. There are different kind of storages where we can store data and make use of that data, right? Understood?
Hi Sai,
Yeah, who's this?
Ramakrishna.
Yeah, Ramakrishna. Yep.
Yeah, coming to syllabus part, we are not covering Python and PySpark.
Yeah, Python and PySpark, what we'll do, we'll cover Python, because Python or PySpark more or less same. So the
Yeah.
tech stack is same, the functionalities are I mean, it will only differ in some codes, but the functionality is same. What we'll do, we'll cover Python, but not completely. What we'll do, I'll give a good understanding of Python. I'll give some useful functions or commands that we'll use with the Python, which we can
Okay.
interact with the Databricks, because Python we more use with Azure Databricks, right? So what we do, we perform analytics. I was talking about analytics. That all type of analytics we do with the tool called Azure Databricks. So here where Python comes into picture. So when I'm talking this Databricks, I'll give a good yeah, understanding of Python too.
Sure, sure. Got it.
Any more questions?
Fine, fine. And how about the
Any
classes? Classes timing same as 10 to
classes
9.
timings, like we generally take classes from 9 to 10 a.m. daily.
Okay.
9 to 10 a.m. daily. So what all we'll cover in this classes is all the topics that we discussed here. Yeah, a good understanding of everything, a good understanding of SQL database, okay. And after all these topics, we'll get into deep down with the live projects that I have worked. I'll put my experience in making everyone you walk through, and I'll make every aspect of the storage account, data factory, Databricks, Synapse Analytics, Power BI like a cakewalk for you to get a better understanding. And I'll make a path for you to become Azure data engineer by putting all my live experience from my past 8 years, right? Like when I'm discussing this, I'll take examples, and I'll take my live projects, and we'll discuss on those things. Got it?
Yeah, but say, how can we practice on this?
So practice is like what we do. We basically will create a when we are starting actual classes, we basically create a Azure portal, okay. On a daily basis, if we are today discussing about Azure storage, I'll kind of give a work for you to perform the same actions, okay, to perform same actions on same day on Azure portal. So next day what we'll do, when you are creating this portal on yourself for doing it, we'll get some doubts, right? We'll clear these doubts in the next class. Likewise, if I'm talking about my project, I'll just show you visualization of how my project is done, how I'll show you my project aspects. But to give it to make you practice, I'll give an example. Like if you are if okay, if I am working on, if I had worked on COVID-19 data for the government, okay. Got it? What I'll do, I'll take a similar data from I'll ask you to take similar data examples. Got it? Similar data examples from internet and work on that. See, I'll show you like what all I did with my data. I'll ask you to do the same with the data that you downloaded from the internet. Got it? Who asked the question that? Who did ask that question?
Yeah, I asked Akash.
Yeah, you understood the Akash?
Yeah.
So did you get that what I said? Akash, does this answers your question or you have other doubt?
No, I got answer of this question, but I want to ask you a question apart from that.
Okay.
But please, like at the last, I will ask.
Sure, sure. So yeah, in this session, what we'll do, we'll kind of after completing this complete all the aspects or the sessions, what we'll do, we'll kind of get a good hands on all the services. We'll have you will have idea how in real time scenarios a data engineer will work, how we'll organize the data, how he'll kind of analyze the data. You'll have a complete idea and good everything. You will get good hands on. I'll walk you through all my live projects. Okay, we'll create a resume together. Got it? We'll create a resume together and we'll kind of make you interview ready with based on some interview questions. We'll kind of provide you that interview questions. So yeah, so what exactly a data engineer what does is, sorry, yeah, yeah, that's what, like all these things, like all these things, right? We spoke about Azure Databricks, Azure Synapse Analytics, right? Azure storages. All we do in where we work on these things in Azure portal itself. Okay, this portal is kind of home to create like all this. If you know, Azure Synapse is a tool, Azure Storage is a tool, Azure Databricks is a tool, Azure Data Factory tool is a tool. So what I'll do, we'll kind of create every tool in the Azure portal. For that, first we need to create a Azure portal. I'll make you walk through that. Like I'll make you help create Azure portal free trial one, where you can create where you can kind of just plug in and play. You create services and make use of that. Got it? So now we had a good understanding of what the cloud computing offers, what is a data, what is data engineer will do, what sessions we'll cover. But I before ending or before closing this session, I just want to every one of you have a good touchdown as what is Azure data engineer, right? So we discussed what Azure particular data engineer will do. He organizes the data, he migrates, he organizes, migrates, okay, analyzes, analyzes, and creates visualizations through Power BI. So to get into this data engineer, what he'll do, he'll go to step by step. He'll first create, he'll get a good understanding of data factory. Okay, good understanding, good working of Databricks. This data factory is for collecting. Yeah, this is called, we call it ETL tool. I'll talk about ETL now. Okay, this Databricks is analysis tool, right? Synapse Analytics is also analytics tool, but with capabilities of AI, ML, artificial intelligence, and machine learning. Got it? Fourth is uh, Power BI. Power BI is like, you guys have heard about Power BI? Anyone? I want answers. Anyone already heard about Power BI, worked on Power BI?
Yes, Power BI right now I'm using in my current domain, but it's not for
Okay, data engineer.
technical
Maybe you are using it
perspective.
as a developer, right?
No, no, no. It's I'm using it as a for downloading reports. So that's why
Okay,
this
for
as per
downloading
business
reports.
purpose.
Got it,
Yeah,
got it, got it. Yeah.
based on
So,
our
like,
requirement,
we'll,
we
yeah,
make the download.
understood. We'll make use of Power BI as a data engineer is a different scenario. We making use of Power BI as a data engineer is a different scenario, which helps companies to grow in general.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, now we had a good understanding of everything, like what is cloud, what is Azure, why is Azure more choosable over AWS and Google, right? So we got a good understanding of cloud, database, everything. So I just want to give a basic intro of a topic, single topic to the Azure, called Azure Data Factory. So this will make you get complete idea. Okay, this Azure Data Factory is basically a ETL tool. What it does is, ETL is, the full form of ETL is extract. Just a second. Extract, transform, and load. I'll talk about these things. Extract is extracting data. You want to customer wants to migrate his data from on premise to Azure. That process is called extracting, right? Extracting, that pulling. He wants to first fetch that data from on premise first. That is called to fetching of data is extract, right? And load, I talk about transform later. Load is he fetches the data, right? But he wants to store it somewhere in Azure. That is called loading. So in order to store it somewhere in Azure, that process is called loading. But where he will store? In SQL database, or sorry, not SQL database. SQL database on-prem, Azure SQL database, Azure SQL database, Azure storage, like that. He will store somewhere like in Azure SQL database, in Azure storage, like this. What I was talking about transform, right? What is this transform is making this data more useful, making this data more impactful. Okay, in order to transform, what this transformation does is, there is some, talking a generic example. Okay, so what transform does is, so there are some people, not people. So what this transform does is, once data is extracted, right? Once data is extracted, it can load to some database or somewhere. So the normal on-prem SQL data we can store directly to Azure SQL database. But there are some Excel files. Okay, you know Excel, you know JSON, right? You know this, there are different data formats. Everyone, XML. You guys heard about these different data formats? Packet. I need an answer.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So
Excel,
there are
JSON
different
we know
data
use
formats. Sorry.
Excel, JSON like we worked.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about this Excel JSON. So these are kind of just like we have Excel is a data format. We use it in regular, right? This packet is some kind of a data format. I mean, we don't need to get into more deeper into this. We just keep an idea of different data formats like this Excel and packet. We more use in our as a part of our data engineers. Okay. So what about this JSON and XML are unstructured. Unstructured is which is not understandable by system. Like for example, Akash or someone kind of Akash or Amit or someone J is going to Russia. Okay, so going to Russia. So they're talking English in Russia, but which is not understandable by the people there. So what you'll do, you'll make use of what transformation or some translations, right? Translations which can use which can what it will do, it will make use of your data and it convert to the data understandable by the people in Russia. So this process of transforming, this process of making a translation is called transform. Making data, so that for example you are talking in English which is not understandable by the Russians. So what you'll do, you'll make use of a translator or some, you'll transform that English to Russian, so that for them, for the people living in Russia, your English is called unstructured language. What in your English is unstructured, structured, which is not understandable, understandable by people of Russia. To make it understandable, we transform, to transform that language to Russian language. So that process of doing is called transformation. So just like in case of our ETL, in ETL, what we do, we make ununderstandable data to make understandable by the system is transformation. Got it? Any doubts here? Any doubts, anyone?
Hey, hi Sai.
Yeah.
Actually, we are doing this ETL transformation, everything by Databricks notebooks, correct? So,
Databricks activities here.
are you going to, I mean, that explain about PySpark and SQL Spark and Python as well?
No, that's what we someone asked this question, some Ramakrishna or someone asked, like what we do, we'll have a hands-on on, we'll have a good idea of understanding on, we'll talk about Python. I'll not start this
Okay,
Python from the basic. I'll see whatever functions are required, whatever coding level is required. I'll talk that level in the classes parallelly. I'll not take this Python from the trash, but I'll make it. I'll make you interview ready, or it'll make you work ready, project ready like that with the
okay.
essential
In a
Python language.
Databricks, yeah, one more thing.
Hmm.
In a Databricks, are you able to cover the that lake house? I mean, that new format of Parquet, like Delta
Yeah, yeah,
format.
packed formats. Yes,
Uh,
yes. Yeah, we'll.
Delta format
Yeah,
and Lagos architecture, Unity catalogs.
yes, yes, we'll kind of take example of each data format, and as a working example, we'll take each data format example and we'll transform on that.
Okay, is everything on batch streaming only? I mean, not in
Sorry,
a uh, batch processing only, not a streaming process. Actually, are you covering streaming as well?
your voice is breaking. I can't. I mean, it's very low.
Are you
DAX
covering
I
streaming
heard.
as well?
After DAX,
Streaming.
yeah, we'll cover both
No, no,
processes.
batch and streaming on.
Yeah, DAX is streaming. Because what happens if we some like in Databricks, some languages like Python or PySpark, some will kind of cover distributed networks, some will not do, like so we need to, in real life we need to know which language will support a distributed network, in which language won't support. And also if you are using Python or something, if you are using notebooks, how many nodes we can how many nodes we want to make use of, right? Everything I'll get into detail. If you are kind of transforming the data through notebooks in Azure Databricks, how many nodes we need to use, I mean what is what is the exact quantity of nodes we can make utilize, because this is what helps in cost cutting for a company, right? So I'll talk about every detail.
Okay, okay, fine.
Yep. So yeah, so these are like what we can do with data factory and Databricks now. So now we have covered everything. Before closing this session, or before closing this, what exact role of a Azure data engineer, right? What he does, we just discussed. Can anyone reiterate what is the exact role of a data engineer, what he does? Anyone wants to answer? from the things we covered, anyone want to answer the exact role of a data engineer? Anyone? Say yes or no, which is fine.
Sorry, could you ask again what you are asking?
No, no, from the class we have learned, right? From the class we had, anyone wants to put in some words, like around some words, the exact role of a data engineer, what he does?
According to the example you provided, a data engineer, what he analyze the data and fetch the information, fetch the important information and provide to the further.
Analyze, load, okay, make it useful
Transform the
data
data
and
into.
visualize,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Fetch the data, analyze the data, load it the data, and make the data useful and visualize it through Power BI, right?
Yeah.
Got it? So with this, yeah. So we have I mean the time is over, but if you got any doubts, anyone, you can stay, or if other people want to listen, they can stay, or yeah. I mean, someone said they want to ask some doubt of the end of the class.
Yeah, I only asked Akash here. So,
Yeah, Akash,
what
yeah.
I'm asking actually, like I'm an automation tester. Okay,
Okay.
I worked on the UFT. I'm working on the Selenium, and also working on the functional because in the today in this industry, they are using like agile methodology. So
Yep, yep.
sometime automation, sometime manually. So how
Mhm.
can this can be beneficial for my career? Or to
This
start this, I have to start from the scratch, or what?
No, as I said, like as you already have this methodologies, right? You're talking about the agile methodologies, which are efficient in the environments. If you're kind of see, if you're working with this agile methodologies, which are suitable for the different environment, which is a testing environment, right? So this data engineering is a what it comes as a developing environment. You will call as a data engineer or a senior software developer when you're kind of onboarding a job. Got right it, Akash? So how it is useful if you want to start your career right from here, as I said, you need to start with any database. Is that what your question is?
No, no, what I'm asking, like already I have 10 year of experience. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if I want to, like I will get the classes and I will learn this, then
Mm-hmm.
I have to start from the zero for the Azure data engineer. All that these 10 year of experience will be count when I will look for a job.
No, no, that will be counted, Akash. So what happens in companies in general outside is they'll ask about your complete experience, okay? And why? Because this data engineering, complete people when transformed into data engineering has happened from last 5 to 6 years only, okay? So even the people like who had 10 years of experience, 15 of years experience also, they only had like around exact or complete data engineering experience, like would be like not more than 6 or 7 years, right? So in order, if you already have 10 years experience as a tester and you want to start using data engineer, okay, so what you will tell them, I'm a career shifting, I'm doing a career shifting of my path. So also what you'll do, you'll make use of your so also what happens when this data is transformed, also when this data is loaded also, there are some testing will happen for these things also, okay? We here also we make use of for Selenium, okay? So for that also you can put your practices into this, which you can
So,
speak to the yeah.
so within like Azure data engineer, when you will provide at the session, at that time also you will use Selenium.
No, no, we won't talk about testing is a different aspect. I have seen the people doing that, but I've just talked about developing Selenium. I won't talk that about that is a different testing aspect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I won't talk about that. I'm just making how you can make use of your experiences in Azure. That's what.
So, just one question. Like we have Azure developers, Azure data
Mhm.
engineer. So, do
Okay.
you also have Azure QA?
QA
Like
is
it
QA is
developers.
not particular Azure QA, but there are QAs, yes, Azure Quality Analyst, yes.
Yeah, because if developer is developing something, then there must be
They
someone
need
who
to
can
develop
ensure
testing
that
also.
quality.
Yes, yes, there are QAs also. Yes, but that is not as a separate Azure QA. We won't call them in general. Who is working in Azure, who is working with Azure technology also. We'll call them quality analyst. That's it. We'll not call them Azure QA separately like that.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Like there are some like you just told about Azure developer, Azure data engineer. There is one more thing called Azure DevOps engineer. Yeah, which is you might guys have heard about,
Yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes.
what this DevOps engineer will do in general or in production, what we do, we'll have three different environments, right? Like dev, UAT, production, right? So what this DevOps
Yes.
engineer will do, he will migrate. Like you have created a complete environment in dev, okay, which is fine. So what this DevOps engineer will do, he'll migrate this complete environment through of this environment through CI/CD pipeline to the upper higher environment. For example, you are developing everything in dev, okay. If he wants to migrate, you don't need to create every service. In DevOps, we have a feasibility. What we'll do, we'll just migrate it all these services to the UAT through CI/CD pipelines. That is what a DevOps engineer does. Got it?
Okay, okay.
So general, like you only like you were talking, right, Akash? So in production, what happens? They'll create an application in dev, okay, right?
Yeah.
So if they want to move it to UAT or prod, what they'll do? They sit on writing the code from starting? No, right? They'll just make
Yeah,
use of existing code. They'll change the connections
yeah.
that are
They
there
just
to dev
make the
and they'll
packaging and
migrate it
deploy
to
the
prod.
packages.
Yeah. So in general, the developers will do, but in Azure, this work will be done by the DevOps engineer. Got
Okay,
it? Yep.
got it.
Yeah. So this is all about today's demo. Like if you guys have any doubt, you can stay back. I'm still available for 10 more minutes.